welcome here. If you're new here, my name is Rebecca. If you're not new here, welcome back. Thank you for coming back and watching another video. So way back at the end of July, I told you all that I was going to save all of my garbage for the month of August and then share it. So I did that. So in this video, I'll share with you why I decided to do this, the method for this undertaking. I'll show you all of the trash and then take you through some key learnings and takeaways I had from this experience. All right, with all that said, let's get started. All right, so let's start with why on earth I would want to save my garbage for an entire month. There was two really big reasons for this. The first is I wanted to bring some transparency around what my zero waste life really looks like. I would consider myself pretty committed to a zero waste lifestyle, and I make a bunch of content about it and I talk about it all the time. But I'm by no means perfect. I'm doing my best, but I still, even with this level of commitment, have a lot of waste. And so I just wanted people to be able to see that and see what it looks like to be at this point in my journey. And the second is because I feel like it's important for my own critical reflection of my habits. I feel like as humans, we get into this cycle of like, we do a certain thing and we produce waste from a certain thing, but it's how we've always done it and we haven't maybe explored alternatives. So we just deem it as okay or passable or a thing that we're okay doing. So from time to time, I feel like it's good to sit down and actually look at and reflect on, here's all the waste that I'm actually generating despite my efforts to be zero waste, and maybe come up with some new ways to reduce. Okay, so with that said, let's talk a little bit about the method. What I'm going to show you today is garbage, things that are destined for a landfill. It's important to note that I have a pretty robust recycling program in my area. I'm pretty lucky that a lot of things are recyclable. I think there's debate as to whether those things actually get recycled, but for the sake of this experiment, I have to assume that what the company tells me and what I'm paying for is happening. And as a side note, I wash all of my recyclables to give them the best chance of being recycled. I hope you do too. And the second, and the thing of, I think, greater impact for me at least, is I compost. If I did not compost, this would be a way, way, way bigger pile of trash. If there's one takeaway from this video, it's in whatever way you can, start composting. I feel like we all think about the fact that like it's organic matter, so even if it's going to a landfill, it's okay. But the thing is, landfills are a place for holding and not for decomposition. And I can go into composting in more depth in a future video if you guys are interested in that. But for today's video, what I'm showing you here are things that I did not compost or are not recyclable in my area. It's just trash for the landfill. All right, so now let's talk about the actual garbage, some observations and learning from reflecting and then spilling all over my floor a month's worth of garbage. So the first thing, unsurprisingly, 99% of the garbage I have here is non-recyclable plastic. The other 1% is non-recyclable metal, specifically razor blades, and then these kind of like twist tie things that have metal in the middle. Both of these pieces of metal are too small to go into the recycling. And then secondly, of all the garbage here, I would say 95% is food packaging, maybe even more. I keep looking down because the garbage is strewn all over the floor here. It might even be more than that. So that's encouraging in a way that I feel like a lot of other areas in my life beyond food, I've really figured out some systems and processes and places to shop where I have a really low impact. But I really try not to buy things in plastic, and there's a lot of plastic here. So let me highlight a couple things in particular. So these three packages, this is all stuff that at one point or another I was able to buy in bulk. So nuts, I still consider this buying in bulk. This is a 5-pound bag, but I can't buy this like at my local grocery store in bulk anymore. I go through one of these packages at least probably once a month in different types of nuts. And then same with like quinoa and flaxseed. So these are things that they were sold out at the time in my bulk bins, but I wanted them in that moment. So I just bought them in a plastic packaging. I probably could have held off. I feel like that's the thing about sort of this world of abundance that we live in right now. Like, did I need quinoa? Probably not. Could I have eaten another grain? Probably, but I like the satisfaction of getting anything I want at any time. I feel like that behavior could be adjusted a little bit. And then this label, this came off Dr. Bronner's coconut oil. I saved the glass jar that it came in. And they're a company who's pretty committed to being a low impact brand. So when I was taking this label off, I was pretty surprised to be like, oh, this is completely made of plastic. Like, I can't compost this. It kind of makes sense to me, honestly, because it's an oil. This probably needs to be plastic just to hold up to like when the oil is spilled on it and stuff. But I'm still like a little disappointed that this just had to go into the trash. All right, let's talk about this. I mean, this is a package for chocolate chips. I love chocolate chips. I keep them in the freezer in the summertime. They're a delicious cold snack. But what I really want to talk about is this. So on the back here, I've stuck all of the stickers from any produce that I got. This is one of those things where I feel like I think about it in my head and I think, oh, all this produce comes without packaging. It's just a little tiny plastic sticker, like that can't make that big of a difference. But if this is the amount of plastic that it produces in 1 month, times this by 12, that's a lot of plastic in a year from something that you feel like has no plastic packaging. A lot of this is what was bought sort of at the supermarket because like I really wanted a cantaloupe, but none of my local farmers were growing cantaloupe, so I just went to the supermarket and bought one. Again, I think it's a little bit of that trap of abundance where like, oh, they don't have a cantaloupe at the farmer's market, I'll just run down to the grocery store and yeah, it has a plastic sticker on it, but that's okay, I still get to eat a cantaloupe. Same thing with this. This is plastic that came off the top of the bananas that I bought like in a big grocery store and not from the farmer's market. I hate this piece of plastic. It's there because if you wrap plastic around the tops of bananas, they'll ripen slower. But if I didn't buy my bananas from so far away, it wouldn't be a problem. All right, it's time to expose myself. These are all from the tops of kombucha bottles. It's funny because when I buy a bottle of kombucha, I'm like, this is totally recyclable, but not this little piece of plastic on the top. And I do buy like big bottles to have around the house, but these little black ones, these are all like single serve bottles that I bought. There's 5 of these total and they're $5.50 each. So that's what, $27 plus that I spent in single serve bottles of kombucha. I could have made this kombucha or just not bought kombucha while I was out, but just come home here to the big bottle that I have in my refrigerator and drink that. But I chose to spend all of this money and make all of this plastic trash and all of that recycling instead. I don't know, this is why I feel like this is a helpful exercise. Because I feel like in my head, when I think about it, I don't buy like kombucha out that often, but like, I kinda do. And then the rest of the food trash here, they're really just like single-use plastic bags for things like wraps and bagels and some nuts and berries. There's a package for tempeh here. I think I bought some vegan cheese at one point, some tofu. So I really do feel like this is one of the biggest areas where there's definitely some room for improvement. All right, so let's talk about an area where I feel like I'm maybe a little farther along on my zero waste journey, and that's the bathroom. So the only waste that I generated from my bathroom for the month of August was a Band-Aid in its packaging, a razor blade, and then the inside of a floss container. And all 3 of those things, I feel like I already know solutions on how to make that better. So let's talk about the Band-Aid first. It was one of those things that like I didn't even think about until I collected my trash for a month and had to throw it in the garbage. And I was like, there has to be some sort of like compostable Band-Aid out there. There is. So I showed these in my zero waste bathroom tour last week. These are my bamboo, I was gonna say Band-Aids, but Band-Aids is kind of a brand name, right? Bandage strips. Their packaging as well as the Band-Aid is all compostable. So again, this probably isn't something that I would have like gone looking for had I not gone through this experiment of collecting all my trash. So I'm grateful to have found these. And the second is with the razor blade. So I've known for a while that there are blade recycling things out there, but I just never sat down to actually do the research. And I did this month, and I found a place that they will actually send you a little, it's almost like a little metal box that you can slide these into to safely keep them. You mail them back that box, they take care of the recycling, and then mail it back to you again. I'm completely blanking on the name of the company, but I will link it down below so you can check it out for yourself. And then let's talk for a second about floss. So this is the floss that I currently use, it's EcoDent. I for a while was using one of those brands that has a little glass tube and you just buy the refill for the tube. But here's the thing, my teeth are very close together, so I need a pretty sturdy floss to be able to floss my teeth. And that floss that I bought wasn't working. So I was excited to find this because it's vegan, it doesn't contain any beeswax, and it's in a compostable box. But when I used through the first box of it in the month of August, in there was this. It's just a regular piece of plastic. I feel like I was duped a little bit. It literally says on the side of it, no plastic case. Wouldn't you think that means there's no plastic in here? There's plastic in there. So like, it's only this little tiny piece of plastic, but it's the principle of it. So I'm looking for a different vegan floss that the actual floss is compostable and the package is either reusable or compostable. So I'm on the hunt. If you have any suggestions, please let me know. All right, let's talk about receipts. These I'm not gonna put in my compost. They are all printed on thermal paper, which is covered in BPA. I eventually want to grow food from my compost. I don't want BPA in there, but also like, I had no opportunity to refuse any of these receipts. These are all receipts that were handed to me without asking. So there were some cases where I would go to a store and they would be like, do you want a receipt? And I would say no. But there's also some places would be like, do you want a receipt? And the receipt was already in their hand printed. So the option was they were gonna throw it away or I was gonna throw it away. So I felt like it should be counted towards my trash, so I kept it. Touching these makes me want to wash my hands. All right, so let's talk about the last category, which is like miscellaneous products that I bought throughout the month. This is another area where I felt like I had some good resources to buy some products that I needed that came from brands who care about their impact. So for instance, I bought a new phone case. The phone case that I had was made by Pila. I threw it in my compost and I got a new fully compostable phone case that came in all compostable packaging. And I even got a little grippy thing. It's not a pop socket, it's like one of those loops that is also, when this reaches the end of its life, gonna be compostable. However, that does mean that I'm throwing in the trash this month my old pop socket. I thought about reusing this, but I stuck it on the new phone case and it wasn't, the sticky just wasn't the sticky that it once was. So I felt like this was just gonna fall off and annoy me, so I felt like it was time to get rid of it and just go with the loop that can eventually be composted. Unless I can think of another use for this. Can you think of another use for this? It's mildly sticky. I don't know. Okay, so here's an interesting one. I bought a fan, like a stand-up fan for the bedroom, and it wasn't from a brand who has any outward commitment to zero waste or anything, but when it arrived, the only packaging that wasn't recyclable or compostable was this tiny little piece of plastic and I think like 4 or 5 metal and plastic twist ties that I actually am going to reuse in a bedroom makeover project that is coming soon. Stay tuned. So that was actually really encouraging for me. But this little tiny piece of plastic is going in the trash. And then the other thing that I bought this month were towels. And the towels did come from IKEA and they all had these tags on them. These are some sort of plasticky material. They are gonna have to go in the landfill, but I like that it wasn't sort of those little, you know, those like punch through hang tags that you have to like cut off, which are just like, I feel like tiny pieces of microplastic that's like, that's the kind of stuff that ends up like not making it into the landfill and just like blowing all around or in the ocean or whatever. So yes, all these tags are going in the landfill, but at least it wasn't those little pokey things. All right, so that is my trash for an entire month. I feel like my final reflection is really that the average American makes 4.4 pounds of trash every single day. I really do feel strongly that if we were all able to compost, and I know everyone's in different situations where that might not be able to be possible, but so much of my waste is cut down by composting. And I really do think that this exercise was such a sobering experience for me. Even just sitting here right now with all this trash around me that only accounts for 31 days of my year, that's a lot. And I'm trying like really hard. Like I'm really trying hard and this is what it looks like. So I just would encourage you all to maybe do a similar exercise just to reflect back on yourself, how much waste you're actually creating and what that really looks like. You don't have to save your trash for a month. I know that's like a little insane, but even just for a day or a week, just so you really understand your impact. It's so easy to put something in a garbage can, especially a garbage can that's not in your house, and just forget about it. Forget it ever happened. It just goes away. But there is no away. I do believe in being gentle with yourself, doing the best you absolutely can, but be realistic, be critical, reflect, and try and do better. All right, that's it for this week's video. Thank you so much for watching. Please make sure to give this video a like if you liked it and subscribe down below. It helps my channel a lot. And I put out new videos every Tuesday, so I will see you on the next one. Bye, everyone. I feel like I always see zero wasters putting all their trash in a jar. Should I see if I can fit it all in a jar? Whoa, it actually all fits in here. I feel like this should be the thumbnail.